Hey everybody, how's it going? The Johnny Cage here, and I figured I'd do something a little different today and do an NES games pickup video. I got a lot of games over the holiday season, so I figured we'd get into it. I pretty much doubled my collection since last time I did my previous Nintendo collection video. So let's see what I got. First up, I've got Swell Cross, which is a game that's a lot like Tron. Well, at least it looks like Tron. It's actually not a lot like Tron, but you're on bikes and you go around shooting up other guys on bikes while collecting people that are on the road and getting power-ups so your bike still has energy. The graphics are really dated and kind of weak, and it's by some developer called FCI that I've never heard of. It's not bad though. I got it pretty cheap, and it's pretty fun for the amount of money I paid for it. Let's see. Next up, Ice Hockey, Nintendo's equivalent to Blades of Steel, which Konami made, and this is a very family-friendly hockey game, as where Blades of Steel had a lot of fighting involved. This is more so strategy. You can pick a team, and just you have a team of 4 people, and there's a skinny guy, a normal-sized guy, and a fat guy. And each of them have their ups and downs, and you can have as many of each on your team as you want. It's pretty interesting in that sense, but I think I take Blades of Steel over this one, mostly because of the fighting aspect. It's just lots of fun. Next we've got Jackal, a really fun shoot-'em-up kind of game where you run around in a jeep, collect POWs, and there's lots of just good old fighting and shooting in this. It's got a great level of difficulty, just right on the mark, with not being too hard and not too easy. Really fun 2-player game too. As far as kind of military action games for the NES goes, this is definitely one to have, and you can get it relatively cheap too. Next up, finally got myself Kirbys Adventure. Kirby is one of my favorite Nintendo characters, well, one of my favorite video game characters of all time, and the thing that I like most about Kirby games is that they had the formula right the first time. You play this game now, and it seems like it hasn't aged at all. It's just like any Kirby game that you would play today, and I love that. It's so much fun. I might do an LP of this at some point. Now we get Gyrus. Gyrus from Ultra. Ultra was kind of a shell company that Konami made because Nintendo only allowed third-party developers to release so many games in a year, and Konami's like, well, screw that, we're just gonna make this company, and you won't know that it's really Konami, ha ha ha, and we'll release more games than we're supposed to. Gyrus, they did that for the Ninja Turtles games, by the way. Gyrus is kind of like Tempest, if you've ever played that. Instead of moving left to right, you move around in a circle. It's still a space shooter, but you move around in a circle rather than just left and right, or up and down. It's pretty cool. Bionic Commando, a classic Capcom game for the NES. I think most people know about this. They made a pretty crappy reboot of it not too long ago, from what I remember. Didn't hear much about that, but the original is a really fun game, and it's definitely one of the really good games you can get on the cheap, so I highly recommend it. Next up is Cabal. Cabal is an awesome military game. There are not a lot of games that are like Cabal. The only other one that I could think of off the top of my head was Wild Guns for the Super Nintendo. Excuse me, my throat is all crazy today. But you and a friend, preferably, this really awesome 2-player game. You run around the bottom of the screen, running left and right, and you just shoot at stuff. And you shoot at the enemies. After you kill a certain amount of enemies, then you move on to the next level. It is a really fun, though, just run and gun game. It's kind of short, but still really fun. Next up, we have Clash at Demonhead. And if that sounds familiar, and if my camera would focus, there we go. That's because there was a band in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World called Clash at Demonhead, and this is where the name of the band came from. It's a game from Vic Tokai. They didn't get a lot of marketing here in America. They made the Golgo 13 video games, which is based off a popular manga in Japan. But this game is awesome. If you like Metroid, there's no reason you should not play this game, because it's a non-linear, kind of find your way around, find out what you got to do, but instead of Metroid's very kind of serious and dark, this is really comical and really fun, and definitely a game you should try out if you haven't. Next up, dun 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 dun! Oh man. My voice is all screwy today. Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. What more needs to be said about this game other than it is really awesome. When it came out, most people didn't like it because it was such a different game from the original, but it is really still very good. Very difficult, but if you're willing to put in the hours, and there are a lot more hardcore Zelda fans out there obviously now, this game is still very fun and you feel very accomplished when you beat it, that's for sure. And I haven't even beat it yet, but I'll get around to it eventually. So many games that I have to play still. Let's see. 3D World Runner, which is just you running around and jumping over pits pretty much. That's about it. There's probably a Flash version of a game very similar to this online. That's pretty much all I can say. But I got it for like $1.79. Pretty awesome. Mega Man 4. Finally, I've been collecting more of the Mega Man series, and I got number 4. When I first started collecting NES games, I wanted to collect all of the Mega Mans. And so I've been taking a long time to do that. But I finally got Mega Man 4. I'm playing through it right now. Not as memorable, I can already tell, as the other ones, at least as 2 and 3, but I'm going to enjoy it nonetheless. I love Mega Man games. Life Force. People say this is related to Contra in a way. I don't know how, but it's a side-scrolling shooting game, but it's really fun. I would put this ahead of Gradius. This has got to be my favorite side-scrolling space shooter game. You should really play this if you haven't. Great 2-player game. Same kind of power-up system that Gradius had, but there are a lot of like obstacles and crazy things that get in your way that pop up. The environment is more there. You feel like the environment kind of is attacking you more and stuff. It's an interesting kind of way that they did that, and really enjoy that game. Can't recommend that one enough. Got Little Nemo, Dream Master. Great game where you run around as a little kid and you feed candy to different animals and you kind of jump into their skin in a way and kind of gain their powers. And you use their powers to collect 6 keys in each level, and then you move on to the next level. Pretty good. Pretty solid. Definitely a game a lot of people know. And here's a game not a lot of people know. Zen Intergalactic Ninja by Konami. This game is very environmental, and I didn't even know that it was until I got it and really played through it a lot. But you play a ninja that's from the future. It's actually based off of a comic book, believe it or not. And he's trying to save the world and stop all these people that are doing environmentally unfriendly things. So it's kind of like Captain America if Captain America was a badass ninja. And the levels are really awesome too. They're not repetitive at all. Each level, each stage I should say, because you get to pick which stage you want to go to in the beginning. Very different from one another. Really awesome game. Kind of hard to find, but still relatively cheap. You can probably get it for about $10. Next we got Star Wars. Now this is a game I've been wanting to get for a while, because I had this game growing up, and it is a lot of fun. It's difficult, but it is really close to the actual Star Wars New Hope movie. And I've got a lot of nostalgic attached to this game, so you very well might see me do an LP of this. I haven't beaten the game ever before. I've gotten pretty close, but the Death Star is a gigantic maze, and I'll kind of leave it at that. So, you know, you might see me do an LP of this. It's very fun still. Oh my goodness, Tiger Heli. I got this game thinking that it was a different helicopter shooting game, and it's pretty bad. The graphics are extremely dated. It's not a lot of fun to play, but I got it for $1.79, and that's really all I'm gonna say about that one. I think I got the $1.79's worth out of it. Next up, we got Totally Rad. Oh man, if you've never played Totally Rad, then you're kind of missing out. It's kind of Mega Man-ish, I would say, as far as being able to have powers, but you have all the powers available to you from the beginning, so that's a plus. And it's got really great dialogue from the 90s. Everyone says groovy and rad and all sorts of ridiculous 90s things in it. Not too bad of a game. Kind of rare. Not very expensive. But, you know, it is what it is. So we got Trojan, a side-scrolling kind of like slasher adventure game from Capcom. Not one of Capcom's greatest games for the NES, but really good. I enjoy it. It's kind of difficult. You'll probably die quite a few times in the first level just trying to get used to it all, but still lots of fun. Now this is an awesome game, Vice Project Doom. This is one of the most overlooked side-scrolling platform not side-scrolling at all, my bad, platform action games. It's right up there with Ninja Gaiden and Castlevania. It is a lot of fun. You got driving levels, sniping levels, platforming, you get swords, guns, grenades. It is an awesome game. I cannot recommend that one enough. Again, it's a little bit uncommon, but you can get it cheap. Werewolf, the Last Warrior. Look at him emerging from the game there. Like, I'm gonna eat you up. Ah. This game is really hard, actually. But I got it kind of cheap. It was one of those games that kind of entered my pretty decent, and also pretty cheap, so I picked it up. I wouldn't recommend it a lot, and this, good lord, this cart has been through a lot. It's the label is probably the most damaged label I have in all my collection. But it's still a pretty interesting game, at least. The mechanics are there. You can do an awesome backflip if you hit A and B at the same time. Huh? That's something, right? Yeah? Backflips. Rampart is an awesome puzzle game that not a lot of people know about. It's kind of puzzle action, if you will. You have a castle, and you build up the walls around it, and you put cannons within it, and then you play through a kind of a phase, if you will, where there are enemy boats off the coast. It's set in medieval times, as you might be able to tell from the label, and you shoot at them, and they shoot back. And then in between rounds, you repair the walls of your castle, but they give you random pieces that are a lot like Tetris pieces, and you don't know what you're going to get, but you need to try to keep your castle intact the best you can. It's really cool. Really like that. Next up, Pinball Quest. This is a pinball game that is both a pinball game and an RPG, believe it or not, and it works really well on both ends. If you haven't played it, try it out. It's actually got really good RPG elements to it. Let's see. Finally got Metroid, the yellow re-release version. What can I say? It's Metroid. It's fun, and it's really still very difficult. It's very expansive. I thought that it wasn't going to be as much because the NES version, the Super Nintendo version is. NES, I didn't think as much, but man, lots of hours of exploring in that game still. I'm going to try to get through the rest of these as fast as I can. Next up, Eliminator Boat Duel. You probably never heard of this game. It's, again, kind of an uncommon game, but it's kind of like Super Off-Road in the sense that you do races, you get money, you upgrade your boat, and then you run races. But it's got some awesome courses to it. It's got 2 players. This game is actually a really fun racing game for the NES. So you get through some others real quick. Excite Bike. Yes, you all know what Excite Bike is. Finally got it, though. Freedom Force. This says down here, if you can see it, if it comes into focus ever, that it is the ultimate zapper game. And it is. This game's like Time Crisis, but for the NES. And that's pretty much sums it up. It's got some awesome shooting. If you got a zapper gun that works, you should really have that game. It's a licensed Gauntlet. This is the licensed version that they got from Tengen. Originally, it was Tengen unlicensed game. Then Nintendo got the rights to it, so they released it. Still pretty good. It holds up rather well. You really need to know what you're doing in the game, though, to be able to beat it, because your health slowly drains as you go through it, which is kind of annoying. Next up, Ghosts and Goblins. And my phone is ringing. Great. Ghosts and Goblins. Very difficult game. Probably up there with Battletoads as far as difficulty is concerned. But lots of fun. You'll sit there getting frustrated, but it's the good kind of frustration where you want to come back to it and be able to beat the levels. And you have to beat the game twice to get the real ending, which is crazy. Dr. Mario. I'm not a huge fan of Dr. Mario, but I found a copy of it really cheap, picked it up. It's a classic. It's pretty much all you can say about it. Let's see here. Demon Sword. Which looks nothing. The gameplay is nothing like what the label looks like. A game from Taito. You're actually a ninja. This is kind of a poor man's Ninja Gaiden, if you will. But it's really fun. You can leap through trees. You're kind of in like a nature setting the whole time, leaping through trees, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. It's very fast-paced in that sense. And finally, Donkey Kong Classics. One of my favorite games ever. Get together with some friends, have some beers, and play this. It's got Donkey Kong Jr. on it as well. I love it so much. Awesome game. Definitely worth having. You gotta have this in your Nintendo collection. Come on. But that's all, guys. That's all for now. I will be back with some more LP action later on in January, and I will talk to you all then. Take it easy. Bye.